Don in London, hello. My videos all about recovery from addiction to either substance or behaviour. It's May 8th and Sunday. A great day actually. It's been raining all morning, although it's still quite early, only 8:45 AM. But I've been up for hours. I woke up in great pain caused by neuropathy, which is something I deal with on a daily basis. So in recovery from alcoholic in recovery, other things occur, and May 8th is a good day. It's a birthday day, so I wish a particular person many happy returns. And I don't know whether they'll get this message, but what matters is the sentiment is good, and this is the whole point of recovery. Sometimes people can be in our lives, and sometimes people find their own spiritual path away from us, and that's all right. I've learned in recovery. Why am I going on about this? Well, in the old days I would be holding on like grim death to relationships which maybe were not right for me, because I felt they were right and I could make them right. It was always about trying to be perfect, and I've realised in recovery nothing's perfect. It's all about progress. And the program I follow with AA, Alcoholics Anonymous, helps me on a daily basis to find serenity. I'm going to ask this question on my Facebook page too. What is serenity? I guess for me it's acceptance of life on life's terms, which doesn't mean it's all about being happy or sad. It's about accepting life as it is, and then asking ourselves, well, how do I feel about that? And the answer can be, we can love people, not be able to get on with them, with their behaviour, or where they are, or they can't get on with us and our behaviour and where we are. And I like to live in the day. Today is the one which counts. And funnily enough, after all the hard rain that's been going on, the sun's come out, and it's going to be one of those strange May days where there may be heavy rain or showers, and then big blasts of powerful sun coming our way. All good on the weather front, all good on the birthday front, and my video is about what makes recovery work. And I've mentioned Alcoholics Anonymous, the fellowship. I can never speak for it, and I don't want to, because it's full of unique, authentic people who will speak where they will about their recovery. And most often that's in meetings of the fellowship, where groups of people get together and share their experience, strength and hope. And I want to share some experience, strength and hope here about why it works for me and what's important. Well, the 12 steps, the 12-step program, which becomes part of how I live my life, practicing the 12 steps. And it doesn't mean I'm rigid or stuck. It gives me the absolute freedom to find out what's going on. Freedom to be me. So how does AA help me? What I see is what I get. Sometimes it's good, sometimes not so good. All depends on how people are feeling on the day. So fellowship is one day long, same as everything, all in the day, one day at a time. So I'm going to share the AA preamble and then some of the readings from AA to illustrate why it's working for me, happy or sad. When life never stops working until we stop working ourselves. So the AA preamble, shared at every meeting, goes like this. Alcoholics Anonymous is a fellowship of men and women who share their experience, strength and hope with each other, that they may solve their common problem and help others to recover from alcoholism. The only requirement for membership is a desire to stop drinking. There are no dues or fees for AA membership. We are self-supporting through our own contributions. AA is not allied with any sect, denomination, politics, organisation or institution. Does not wish to engage in any controversy. Neither endorses nor opposes any causes. Our primary purpose is to stay sober and help other alcoholics to achieve sobriety. So, in recovery, what you see is what you get, life on life's terms. And sometimes acceptance of life on life's terms offers us I can't believe it's happening to me moments where there is denial about certain events in our lives. And sometimes we need denial long enough to help us through very difficult times. So every process we have open to us, including denial, is important. so we can get back to what is real. And I do that most with the help of other people, not only in fellowship but outside it. And I wanted to share from this book, the 12 Steps and 12 Traditions, in particular a passage from the 12th step, which offers a summary of what the 12 steps are and how they work in real life, to give me freedom. And without freedom, where would I be? I'd be back stuck in the malady, not only of drinking, but the old behaviour which held me back and stopped me from seeing life as it is. So from page 110 onward, step 12, it gives a summary of the 12 steps, and this is what it is. AA's manner of making ready to receive this gift lies in the practice of the 12 steps in our programme, so it's practicing them, not knowing them. So let's consider briefly what we've been trying to do up to this point. Step 1 showed us an amazing paradox. We found that we were totally unable to be rid of the alcohol obsession until we first admitted that we were powerless over it. In other words, if I was powerless over alcohol, life was unmanageable. Now I don't have to be anything about alcohol, and life can be manageable to an extent, to what is possible, not the impossible. In step 2 we saw that since we could not restore ourselves to sanity, that is, I couldn't stop drinking on my own, no matter what I did, tormented beyond belief and stuck sitting on a park bench on my own, unwilling to talk to family, unwilling to talk to any medical or professional people, so isolated, I preferred to be alone and isolated in my fear, because I couldn't work out what to do. And if it hadn't been for the help of my sister and family, my sister in particular, I would have perished. There's no doubt about that. And there was also guilt and concern from my sister, because she cut me off and said, get on with it. And she had to. And, you know, she did the right thing. She rang up AA and said, what can I do? And they said, nothing. It's a personal choice, in the end, to ask for help. So, step 2, step 1, we found that we were totally unable to be rid of the alcohol obsession until we first admitted that we were powerless over it. And then in step 2, we saw that since we could not restore ourselves to sanity, some higher power must necessarily do so if we were to survive. So my first moment of clarity was saying, I'm not dead yet. I don't know how worse it can get. You know, how much more horrible can it get? And then that was my moment of clarity. Simply perish or ask for help. And that was the very last thing I thought I needed to do, because I was stuck in old thinking. Consequently, in step 3, we turned our will and our lives over to the care of God, or simply good conscience in my case, or anyone who seemed to have some wisdom about how to stop drinking. And of course in the fellowship of AA, a lot of wisdom resides in many people. So many people have many ways to be sober, one day at a time. So whether it's God, or good conscience, or a power greater than me, being the wisdom of other people, it's a choice. I don't know, I said to myself. So let go and let God, let go and let good conscience, let go and let good things happen. And ask for help, so I don't have to be on my own. So that got me over the God problem in many ways, because in my life I've been an agnostic, an atheist, completely ignorant of anything that could be helpful to me in this particular malady, and life in general. So now I ask for help. If I don't know the answer, it's a good thing, because it means I can ask for help. And there is no harm in asking for help, even if some might ridicule me and say, you ought to know this by now. And that was one way of being put down. It's a bullying way of making someone fear something else. So I don't have to fear anything anymore. Ignorance is great, not bliss. It's great because I can ask. Yes. So consequently, in step 3, we turned our will and our lives over to the care of God, good conscience, or whatever higher power works for you. It's a personal choice. So when we say God as we understand Him, it's as you understand in your own unique, authentic way, because that's the only way it works. For the time being, we who are atheist or agnostic discovered that our own group, or AA as a whole, would suffice as a higher power. And I also believed that the local health services, professionals, local social workers, local anything, and treatment centre, which I asked and pleaded to be included in, they helped me. So I had to give up knowing what was good for me. Beginning with step 4, we commenced to search out the things in ourselves which had brought us physical, moral and spiritual bankruptcy. In other words, we did a self-appraisal in step 4, which helped us understand what old behaviour, the anger, the resentments and the horrors that we'd gone through, were holding us back. And then we could look at the assets. The balance sheet has assets and liabilities. So we're not all bad, but we've completely screwed it up along the way because we were addicted to alcohol. We made a searching and fearless moral inventory. Looking at step 5, which is I suppose the big thing for me in May, step 5, cover a lot about that. 5th month, fifth step. We decided an inventory taken alone wouldn't be enough. And it wouldn't be enough, because if we just kept it to ourselves, we're still stuck with our secrets inside us. We knew we would have to quit the deadly business of living alone with our conflicts, and in honesty confide these to God and another human being, or to good conscience, to the good of life, whatever it happens to be. An appeal to, this is true about me, all the things I've done, and share it with another human being. At step 6, many of us balked, for the practical reason that we did not wish to have all our defects of character removed, because we still loved some of them too much. Yet we knew we had to make a settlement with the fundamental principle of step 6. So we decided that while we still had some flaws of character that we could not yet relinquish, we ought nevertheless to quit our stubborn, rebellious hanging on to them. The attitude of I know best, that it's all about me, that my ego gets in the way of my learning. And fear, and putting on a brave face. So these defects of character were holding me back. So if I let go of them, then comes step 7. So we decided that while we still had some flaws of character that we could not relinquish, we ought nevertheless to quit our stubborn, rebellious hanging on to them. We said to ourselves, this I cannot do today, but perhaps I can stop crying out, no, never. Then, in step 7, we humbly asked God, or good conscience, or the power of your choosing, to remove our shortcomings, such as He could or would, under conditions of the day we asked. So this whole thing about on condition of the day we asked. So what my shortcomings are, not enough faith, not enough courage, and not enough confidence to say I don't know, or to feel shame and guilt about not knowing. So courage, faith and confidence were my shortcomings. I didn't have enough of that. So these days, as I say, I don't know, then I am open with courage, faith and confidence to have a go at asking for help. And it's all about learning today. So contingent on the day we ask, for goodness sake, please help me. Or words like, I don't know how to do this. Can you give me some guidance? And good conscience often provides that. And wherever it's connected to, we often know what the good conscience says. Concentrate on now. Ask yourself, how am I feeling? Why? And what can I do? We said to ourselves, this I can do today. No, never. Then in step 7, we humbly asked God to remove our shortcomings, such as He could or would under the conditions of the day we asked. In step 8, we continued our house cleaning, for we saw that we were not only in conflict with ourselves, but we had with people and situations in the world in which we lived. We had to begin to make our peace, and so we listed the people we had harmed, and became willing to set things right. In other words, make restitution. We followed this up in step 9. So step 8 is making a list of people we have harmed, and be willing to make amends. And then we have to decide in step 9 how to do that. We had to begin to make our peace, and so we listed the people we had harmed and became willing to set things right. We followed this up in step 9 by making direct amends to those concerned, except when it would injure them or other people. So we don't go back and say, you know, when I did this, I'm going to really tear it up again, so you have to go through it all over. We ask another human being, and maybe several, you know, how do we do these amends and how do we make restitution without doing further harm? And it's not about us going along and saying, I did this, so what about your part in it? Step 8 and step 9 is clearly about our part and not expecting anything back as a result. At step 10 we have begun to get a basis for daily living. Step 10 is about looking at what is working and what is not working. It's like a mini inventory on a daily basis. How's it gone? What's disturbed me? Or you can do it as you go along in the day. And we keenly realise that we would need to continue taking personal inventory, and then when we were in the wrong, we ought to admit it promptly. Which means we only admit our part in it. It's our part, not the other person's part. So we're not looking to blame anyone or anything. We're just saying, this is wrong, I feel wrong about this, I need to start again. And can we start over? So it's not about saying to another person, you've made me feel horrible, we feel horrible, or I feel horrible, I am disturbed by this and I need to find out why, and then work out what to do. So it's about my part and not the other person's. And when we were wrong, we ought to admit it promptly. In step 11 we saw that if a higher power had restored us to sanity and had enabled us to live with some peace of mind in a sorely troubled world, then such a higher power was worth knowing better, by as a direct contact as possible. The persistent use of meditation and prayer, we found, and meditation and prayer, or just simply meditation, depending on your belief system, it did open the channel so that we were then, what had there then been a trickle, there now was a river which led to sure power and safe guidance from God, good conscience, or whatever it might be for you, as we were increasingly better able to understand Him. So for me it's like nature and providence. It's the truth of the situation, it's the wisdom that is around us that will help us with our meditations and beliefs and prayer. It's as we choose to and find and have freedom to understand. Land of the free, well, it's the world of the free, I hope, but so often it's not. So practicing these steps we had a spiritual awakening about which finally there was no question. Looking at those who were only beginning and still doubted themselves, the rest of us were able to see the change setting in. So in other words, from step 1 and learning about the steps, powerless over alcohol, life being unmanageable, and asking for help and getting a bit more sanity back, and knowing it's only a daily process, then we were in good stead. We were starting to unfreeze and let go of the old behaviour which kept us drinking. And you see, it's an emotional and spiritual malady and physical compulsion. So if you've got the emotional, spiritual and physical compulsion to drink, you cannot stop. The 12 steps will work if you work it. And it took me a long time, because thinking it through, I'm sure that might have sounded quite garbled, but to many it's just common sense. And you know, the restoration of common sense to an extent, and knowing that I can be happy or sad and find serenity in life and acceptance helps me. And today in one of our newspapers there is a rich list published of the new billionaires in the UK, and between them they seem to have over £400 billion, which is quite a lot of money. And as the list of richest in the UK, all the way down to just millionaires, then there is a list of happiness, people who've got happiness. I don't know how they coincide, but what I found is emotional and spiritual provides happiness. But if I try and concentrate on finance as the source of my happiness, I may be quite deluded or in denial. Or if I look to the perfect romance to provide me with happiness, I am certainly deluded, because romance is something, and love is something that grows day by day. So we don't automatically say, right, fix the finance and fix the romance and I'm going to be alright. Happiness comes in so many ways to so many different people. Notwithstanding, if you're a billionaire with a fine romance, congratulations. For me, I like my life the way it is, and just learning to live it as it is. Finally, daily reflections. So the 12 steps: emotional, spiritual, physical well-being. Then we have a template for living our lives, to have freedom, not to be constrained by anything to do with alcohol or addiction. Now that's a good starting point for the day for me on a Sunday. So May 8th, in this book, Daily Reflections, and as I say, it covers one step a month. So May step 5, all about sharing our inventory to a higher power and to another human being. The process of confession and understanding that we're no different in many respects, but many of our natural desires and instincts have been led into extreme behaviour and cover-up and hiding behind an illusion. So, May 8th, the resting place. All of AA's 12 steps ask us to go contrary to our natural desires, or excessive desires. They deflate all our egos, or they all deflate our egos. When it comes to ego deflation, few steps are harder to take than 5, but scarcely any step is more necessary to long-time sobriety and peace of mind than this one. So in step 5, if we can do it thoroughly, share it with a person who is attentive and is listening and not falling asleep as if it were just a rite of passage. This is the whole thing. There can be a lot of humbug around step 4 and step 5. These are tools, part of the toolkit, and need to be addressed properly. And the proper way to do it is to keep on doing them until one is satisfied that we're starting to live reality rather than live in fantasy and have things coming up which make us angry. So, it says here, after writing down my character defects, I was unwilling to talk about them. Actually, I wasn't, because by that time, having left the bottle behind for some time and become more open as I was before to self-appraisal and self-examination, sharing it with another human being who happened to be a counsellor and very acquainted with the 12-step program, it all started to make sense. Willing to talk about them, and decided it was time to stop carrying this burden alone. I needed to confess those defects to someone else. I had read and been told I could not stay sober unless I did. Step 5 provided me with a feeling of belonging, with humility and serenity, when I practiced it in my daily living, which is all about step 10. So, daily inventory, what disturbs me, what's getting on me, my nerves. I was going to say something else then. Getting on my nerves, and then what to do. So, it was important to admit my defects of character in order presented in step 5, to God, to ourselves, and to another human being. Admitting to God first paved the way for admission to myself and to another person. And of course, in this process, one or two people I was working with alongside, and they were supporting me. 2 people in this particular period of time died from relapse, and I used to talk to them as if they were there, which may sound odd, but it's not. I was shocked. Not so much more shocked when I started to see other people expire from this ailment. So that's how it works. You know, the nasty shocks are along the way. Denials. I can't believe these people have gone from my life. You know, one week I was seeing them, one day I was seeing them happy, jolly. In a few hours they had a few drinks and it led to them dying. One from kidney failure and one from heart failure. Strange day, this one. Admitting to God first paved the way for admission to myself and to another person. As the taking of the step is described, a feeling of being at one with God and my fellow man brought me to a resting place where I could prepare myself for the remaining steps toward a full and meaningful sobriety. And they did, because in step 4 I was sharing all the angst and anxiety over the years, what troubled me, instances where I just didn't understand, I was ignorant, I was abused a lot, bullying. And of course, if you're taught bullying as a victim of it, then we learn how to bully others who look or we see the weakness in. And that was the thing that really, really broke me in the end. That I assumed some of the characteristics of a bully, and that was a horror I couldn't cope with. So in a way, I'm glad that happened. It broke me down completely and set me off on a track of complete self-annihilation. So doing step 5, I didn't just sit there and do it all in one go. It took quite a while, and it was done by years, incidents, feelings, and my part in it, and what I thought the part of other people was in those instances. But really what it was about was not knowing I had the freedom to choose how to live my life. So whatever the 12 steps had given me, freedom to choose how to live my life. Now, if I like the idea of doing something, it feels right, I'd love to, and if it feels wrong, I'm not going to. But that's not about the steps, that's about real life and what is happening now. So all the steps help me make freedom of choice possible as life is. It doesn't mean I can have everything, it means life on life's terms, the possibilities based on reality, and what are the first steps towards making that happen. And again, I say, it's a particular person's birthday, and I do wish them the best of birthdays, and that's just how it should be. And there are other people in my life these days who I love and respect, and I'm glad they're part of my life. I'm glad I've got family, I'm glad I've got friends, and I'm so glad I've got fellowship. So much gratitude this Sunday morning, and I've gone on quite a long time. Previous videos for May over the years have been a bit small and stark. It always seemed that May was a time when I didn't feel I needed to continue with these videos, or something was getting in the way. And it wasn't that it was getting in the way of step 5, it's just that life got so busy I wasn't quite sure which way to turn. So life changes, and we do what we can do, but without AA, what would I have done? Without family, what would I have done? Without that first admission of powerlessness, I would have been stuck saying, I can do this on my own. And that was the worst place to be. Completely excluded, lost everything, had to be left to my own devices, and that moment of clarity, well, I think it comes early these days, because a lot of people know the dangers more. And when we can't stop, or when we are binging, to hide away from truth, the real truth of who we are, that is the time maybe to say, hang on a minute, what am I doing to myself? So I hope people don't have to do what I did, but a lot of us do. The trouble is, not many survive, and survive to get other ailments as well. That's the way it is. So happiness, there's a list of people in a paper out there, a newspaper, which says these are the happy people today. Then the other list is these are the wealthy people today. And I don't know where all that goes. Maybe we all make our own personal choices, I hope, around those decisions about what makes us happy, freedoms. We only find out as we go along. But if we hold to great expectations which have no foundation, we're living in a future which will not happen. So today is more important. Enough of me. The serenity prayer to God, good conscience, whatever it is that makes it possible to connect to the great big world out there and ask for help. To find serenity in real life is the greatest gift. So that serenity prayer, as you choose to use it, I choose to use it as it is. God, grant me the serenity to accept the things I cannot change, courage to change the things I can, and the wisdom to know the difference. For me, always in the moment, and just for today. DonInLondon, hello. My video is all about recovery from addiction to either substance or behaviour. And I've forgotten the date. It's May 8th, 2009. Hello, DonInLondon. Yeah, my addictive substance, alcohol, my behaviour, trying to be perfect in all departments, I guess. workaholic, relationshipaholic, you name it. I tried to do my best so that you would like me. I guess because I wasn't quite sure who I was or what you might like, and a certain sort of fear of not actually being good enough seemed to prevail for quite a long time. And what took the edge off all those awful feelings of not really understanding life was alcohol. And it could have been anything else, but substance or behaviour. Substances could be drugs, chocolate, as well as alcohol, or all of them at different times. And the behaviour of the workaholic, relationshipaholic, the gymaholic, any old holic, you name it, we can get absolutely stuck in a behaviour which becomes dominant and makes us self-obsessed. So what am I these days? Less self-obsessed, I hope. Learning a bit of experience, strength and hope just on a daily basis. And what helps me most of all to be a part of family, community, society and whatever else is going on is the fellowship of AA, Alcoholics Anonymous. And people arrive in meetings of AA, normally unique, authentic, still not quite sure who they are, and they go out every time unique and authentic, and maybe knowing a little bit more of how to make life work as we go along. And it takes a while to get our bearings and stop the addictive behaviour or substance long enough to make sense of what life could be like, which is a better connection to now, the spiritual, less denials and less filters, understanding our emotions more and less, or where they are, how am I feeling, why, what can I do, and our physical nature, if you like. How are we doing physically? Are we well or are we sick? Or have we got other things going on for us? And I've got type 1 diabetes and clinical depression, and those are gifts I learned about and got in recovery because I was simply living longer. So there is no special treatment from any particular higher power or God when it comes to trying to sort out how to live and what might happen to us. We are all susceptible to anything and everything. So the gift is living longer. I've got more maladies clocked up now, and I don't mind that. It's just part of life, and I make the best of what is rather than wishing it something or desiring it something and it being all out of proportion. So I guess I'm an absolute fan of Alcoholics Anonymous, or any anonymous fellowship which makes life easier for you, or if you don't need any anonymous fellowship, all the better. And this is all about recovery from maladies and mishaps, I guess, and what to do in the moment of now. What can we do now to improve our situation and our condition? So often it's really about moving from the problem into the solution of living and experiencing what is, rather than wishing it different. And we can get really stuck in wishing things were different in the future, or looking back at the past and not actually learning any lessons, but just wallowing in what happened. And the gift these days is if we don't wallow and we are in the moment, we can use our wisdom learned and change things on a daily basis. So that's what AA does for me. And I'll just share the AA preamble, which is said at least 600 times a week in London, because that's how many meetings there are, or more. And it goes like this: AA. Alcoholics Anonymous is a fellowship of men and women who share their experience, strength and hope with each other, that they may solve their common problem and help others to recover from alcoholism. The only requirement for membership is a desire to stop drinking. There are no dues or fees for AA membership. We are self-supporting through our own contributions. AA is not allied with any sect, denomination, politics, organisation or institution. Does not wish to engage in any controversy, neither endorses nor opposes any causes. Our primary purpose is to stay sober and help other alcoholics to achieve sobriety. And in that last sentence, this is my way of sharing a message of experience, strength and hope. And the other part of it is that, as I say often, unique, authentic people go to AA, and every time they walk out of the meeting they're still unique, authentic, with a bit more wisdom maybe than when they went in, or just an understanding that life isn't so bad as it might be. And if we live in the solution, it's not covering up the problem, it's absolutely acknowledging where we are today with all the problems that we have, and then saying, well, what can I do, or what can we do, and listening to others, and being connected to problem solvers. Sounds good, doesn't it? But, we're all human, and all we ever do is make progress, because it's never going to be perfect. And that's the gift. We can make progress and acknowledge what we can do and cannot do. And books help me illustrate the point here. And I went to a meeting of AA last night at Eaton Square. It's called the After Eights, and the reason it's called After Eights is because it is after 8 p.m. in the evening. But more importantly, it's for people who share as the principal purveyors of their knowledge with at least 8 years experience of sobriety, and that's continuous sobriety, not drinking or drugging or using any behaviour to fix themselves, except life, of course. And what are the problems of later sobriety, 8 years plus? And of course there are people in the room there at 40 odd years or more, decades in recovery, and still people who are brand new or with a few days under their belt and still very confused about life. And the gift is we all learn that whether you're 40 odd years sober or 1 day sober, still the same things have to be done to keep on an even keel. Understanding where we are right now in reality, which is spiritual, no denials and no filters, or less denials and less filters, and then what have we got to work with? And we listen to the wisdom of everyone, and very often we need the reminder from the newcomer of just how awful it is to be stuck in the malady of drink, rather than being in the solution and not drinking and making life work as it may. So I use these books. One of them is Daily Reflections, a daily one-pager, AA literature, and also from As Bill Sees It, the co-founder of AA, long time dead, but he amassed an awful lot of wisdom over the years, as we all do, and it's collective wisdom. And the gift is when we walk into a room of AA, there may be hundreds of years of experience of sober rather than hundreds of years of drinking behaviour. In fact, we've got both, but we prefer the non-drinking behaviour as our way forward. So I've gone on a bit. Daily reflections for today, May 8th, and it says a resting place. It's the 5th month and the 5th step, which is all about sharing our fearless moral inventory with another person, as well as God, or good conscience. All of AA's 12 steps ask us to go contrary to our natural desires. They all deflate our egos. When it comes to ego deflation, few steps are harder to take than 5, but scarcely any step is more necessary to long time sobriety and peace of mind than this one. After writing down my character defects, I was unwilling to talk about them, and decided it was time to stop carrying this burden alone. I needed to confess those defects to someone else. I had read and been told I could not stay sober unless I did. Step 5 provided me with a feeling of belonging, with humility and serenity when I practiced it in my daily living. It was important to admit my defects of character, in the order presented in Step 5, to God, to ourselves, and to another human being. Admitting to God first paved the way for admission to myself and to another person. As the taking of the step is described, a feeling of being at one with God and my fellow man brought me to a resting place where I could prepare myself for the remaining steps toward a full and meaningful sobriety. Gosh, that's a big page full there. And the one in As Bill Sees It's even bigger, so I won't go there today. But when we actually examine our good conscience, or we exhort a prayer or meditation to God around what we've done, or where we have gone wrong because we're full of fear, brave-facing and ego, and all the rest of it, all the 7 deadly sins, then we have the opportunity to say, okay, in the big picture of life, how may I proceed further? And to share it with another human being is an act of humility, so that we are understanding what is right about us and what has got in the way, the defects. So the gift is, on a daily basis, we learn humility rather than being prideful or ego-driven or putting on a brave face and being fearful. And the gift is, if we understand that we don't need fear the truth of ourselves, that we are merely human, and any human behaviour has a word to describe it, and it's been done thousands of millions of times before. We understand our true size. We're just the same as everybody else. So when I say, God, grant me the serenity to accept the things I cannot change, courage to change the things I can, and Step 5, it's just for today on a daily basis.